and welcome to the New World. I'm your host, Isa, and today we're going to be talking about some of the greatest and best, in my opinion, changes in gardening. Composting. Composting has become incredibly popular in recent decades. I'm sure you've seen stuff online about it. I'm sure that you have thought to yourself as you're on your way to pay at Home Depot, wow, maybe I should just try composting because this $20 fertilizer that I have to keep buying every 3 to 6 months is not doing it for me. I want to try and get something out of the stuff in my kitchen that I don't end up using because now I just feel wasteful. I'm just throwing it away and it's ending up in some garbage disposal out there, and that makes me feel kind of bad. But maybe the reason why you haven't tried it yet is it's kind of overwhelming. Now, there is a whole scientific process that goes into composting, which is something I highly recommend you look into. It's mainly based off of the carbon cycle, which is how we get our greenhouse gases. This is very important in the breakdown of green material and the browns as well in the compost bin. And we'll get more into what all of that means. Don't worry, I'm not just going to throw this vocab at you and be like, I hope you're already an expert in this, because I'm not going back for you. And then there is also the nitrogen cycle, which is more important when you're actually looking at what is in my garden bed. What sort of plants do I have in there? What sort of bacteria am I attracting? That's when it's a bit more key. But it's also good to keep in mind. If those sound familiar, that's probably because they are. This is something that it's Bio 101 sort of material, although I've been a plant girly for a while, and still I don't really care for, learning the carbon and nitrogen cycle in biology class. I would much rather you throw me in the garden and say, this is a corn plant. Actually no, it's a bean plant I'm thinking of. I'm sorry guys. This is a bean plant. You see these nice mighty roots, mighty fine roots. These have nodes in them, and then it's the whole like bacteria breakdown and whatever. But we are talking about composting. One of the main principles in composting is green and brown material. What are those? Greens, for the sake of simplicity, are nitrogen-rich materials. And these are things that are typically still alive. So when you think of a compost bin and you have the picture in your mind that you're cooking in your kitchen and you're saving some of those scraps for it, those are green materials right there. Anything that really would have a mold buildup, like I just had some strawberries that I had to throw away because they were building up mold. And the reason why they're building up that mold is because that mold knows that there is nutritious material in there. That nutritious material is minerals, it's the sugars that are kind of coming out more as the strawberries are breaking down. That's it's over ripening, if you will. And even the fibrous material, the more carbon based materials, which are browns. Now, you won't find a lot of browns in a decomposing strawberry, but what you will find a lot of browns in are is things like bark. For example, if you're stripping bark off a tree, or if you're somebody that has, logs in your backyard, logs or stumps, sawdust. I think one that people use a lot is, in the fall, what comes off of trees? Leaves. And those leaves are typically already just the carbon material. Now, there are different sizes of composting. When I first started, I was using the small 12 by, what was it? 12 by 2 by 6? That's too small. 12 by 4 by 6. Uh, Tiny bins. And it was great and all. I think that doing something of that size is a lot more efficient when you might not have the space for it. I think it's a lot more efficient if you are somebody that's not producing a lot of waste in your house, because that's one of the key components of composting. It's mass, which I struggle with a lot. Mass, uh, moisture. Let me even just like pull up a list just so I don't misguide you here. Okay. Mass, moisture, and oh boy, why am I blinking? Man, must suck. Do not have. Oh, okay. Mass, moisture, obviously like the needed materials, as in the carbon and the nitrogen, and also air. And this is a key. This is very key. All right. When I first started composting, it was tricky because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I did a lot of do's and don'ts. For example, I realized that I didn't have that much mass. And I was just like, all right, I'm just going to use potting soil. There are some kind of woody bits in there, but I'm mostly just going to throw in organic material and I'm going to see what happens. And this was around a time that I was doing a lot of baking. And sometimes some of the things I would make, let's just say that people didn't quite want to eat them. And I ended up having a lot of waste from that. So what I would do is I would take that material and I would put it in my compost bin. Baking is something that uses a lot of lactose products, it uses a lot of egg product, and it also uses, things like fat with butter. Those are things you want to strictly avoid in composting, and I didn't know that. And I was just throwing it all up in there. There wasn't a lot of aeration going on because there weren't any holes on any part of these bins. And then I was kind of turning it, but not really. And I wasn't putting browns in there. So you can imagine how that went for me. Thankfully, it was just this tiny enclosed space that I was keeping it in my house, but there weren't any pests attracted. There also wasn't a lot going on, which was frustrating. So what I found out is, okay, I need more carbon materials. Typically, you're supposed to have more carbon to your organic matter because organic matter is what attracts those pests. And that's something that I've been noticing with the compost bin that I have right now. Now, this is a nice, I believe it's a 4x4 or a 3x3 that I got from the city. And this bin, what I've been having a lot of trouble with is mass. Just, I don't have enough waste. I have a lot of carbon materials because, you go shoe shopping, you get a box. You order something off of Amazon, you get a box. It's a given. And it's a great way to get rid of that waste, but it's a little difficult when I don't have enough organic matter and have too much organic matter, and that's what attracts pests. So, what the problem that I have with my bin right now is I have a mass problem. I simply just don't have enough organic matter to go to my carbon matter. And what I've been doing is I've been layering it the way that you're supposed to. Typically, this is you have your carbon and you have your organic, and you have your carbon and then you have your organic. And you want to add layers of moisture to that, so you'll be watering it as if it were a plant. The way I like to think of it is what are all the good things that cause heat to build up in the greenhouse effect? And that's it. It's you have enough carbon materials to go with the organic matter that's going to break up because of moisture, and then that heat is coming off of it because it's just decomposition works through. You have more heat, things break down, which is what was happening to my strawberries in the fridge, even though they were refrigerated. What you gonna do about it? So it's a balance of those. And with the ratios, you just kind of have to play around with them. It's a learning process. And there are a lot of great resources, not just from your extension office, but also just from YouTube. I personally think that Angela Growing in the Garden is a pretty good YouTuber that explains it in a fast, efficient way. And honestly, just any of her videos are good, no matter what region you live in. She's somebody that focuses more on the desert, but she's great either way. And that's really all that you need to know about composting. I think with those little guides that I give you in there, you should be fine. I would look up a list of do's and don'ts in composting, as in what you can put in and what you can't. But overall, it's an easy process that anybody can do. It's something that you can probably take one of those old plastic boxes that you're not using anymore that you can just put in your attic, poke holes in them, and then, just have at it. I think composting is a very fun process, so I hope you have fun with it too. This has been an episode of The New World, and this is Isa signing off. Have a wonderful day.